Good morning, everybody. Well, we've had a little bit of time to sit and digest about what happened in Venezuela. And I'm hearing things from both sides. And I'm not exactly sure my overall opinion on this whole thing. It's kind of the same way I felt about Iraq in 2003. It's one of those things that, yes, it's something that really needed to happen, but was it a good time to do this? I mean, I guess it's never really a good time to ever take any kind of action like that, but you understand what I mean. However, in light of all that, there are some things that I'm very aware of as far as how people are perceiving it, and in some cases I don't understand what people are trying to say, and there's reasons for it. First of all, people complaining that Trump decided to attack the people of Venezuela. Well, that's kind of hard to justify such a statement, because if you consider, yes, aircraft went in to clear a path for Delta Force to go in to get a hold of Maduro. There was some air defense fire upon our aircraft. It and took out the threat to clear that path. Delta Force went in, they took Maduro, and they got him out. This was not a blanket bombing attack across the entire city or country. This was targeted. This hit specific points. And if the people were being attacked, how come it is that there's a whole bunch of citizens of Venezuela in the streets celebrating? They're out there, they're waving their national flag, which I applaud them for doing that. Some of them are putting the U.S. flag next to it. Some of them are expressing their appreciation to the United States government for taking a dictator out of power. There's even Venezuelan citizens here in the United States who escaped that regime. They're out there celebrating in the streets. And they're absolutely ecstatic. The people of Venezuela now have a chance to again be free. Maybe it's not the best choice, that the U.S. is going to have a little bit of control for a while. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not going to say it's good either. However, what we need to do is we need to keep that period as short as possible and have Venezuelans in charge of Venezuela again. But you've got a lot of other people who are trying to say that this action was illegal. Well, you also got to remember, this action is not without precedent. I've seen a lot of the people that are out there protesting in our streets saying, that it's a bad thing of what happened in Venezuela. A lot of the people I see out there are way too young to remember one particular thing, but some of them, they're old enough. I know they're looking older than I am, and I can remember this one particular event. But does no one remember what happened in 1989 in Panama with Manuel Noriega? Nobody on the international stage was screaming for sanctions against the U.S. for that one. But apparently a lot of you also are not studying the history of relative recent history of Venezuela, starting with the election of Hugo Chavez, and then moving on to Maduro taking power upon Chavez's death. Haven't realized there's been investigations by the ICC even. Yes, the U.S. has not got a treaty, or signed the treaty of being a part of the ICC. I understand that. But a lot of y'all on the left are all up in arms, celebrating because Mamdani said that if not Netanyahu ever steps foot in New York, he'll have him arrested and sent to the ICC. Because the ICC issued a warrant for Netanyahu's arrest. But you don't seem to care that the ICC was looking into potential charges against Maduro. Y'all don't care about the fact that there is an active indictment, yes, in U.S. courts against Maduro. Tomorrow, on Monday, he's going to be arraigned. Yeah, we didn't go in. We did not conduct an execution or assassination. We took him into custody so he can go through the court system. Y'all bitched about the fact that we were taking prisoners during global war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan and sending them to Cuba, saying that we should put them into the U.S. court system. Well, now we are using the U.S. court system, and you're still complaining. Some of y'all people are saying that it's all about the oil. Well, you know what? In part, it is about oil, because there are some significant oil reserves in Venezuela. And years ago, there were contracts and agreements with the U.S. companies for U.S. companies to have the rights to access and extract that oil, which they were shipping to the majority of it. Yes, they were shipping to the U.S., but some of it was still staying there in Venezuela because it was a joint venture with the government. And then once Chavez took power, all those agreements were just nullified. Even international courts have agreed that Venezuela owes money to these U.S. companies for breaking these agreements. So yes, this does have a little bit to do with the oil, and also the fact that people decided not to honor their contracts. Here's another thing that I really don't understand. A lot of these people back in 2003 going into Iraq, one of the big things was, it's all about the oil, it's all about the oil. They just want the free oil. Well, holy crap. Take a look at the price of oil back in 2003 versus what it is now. Relative to inflation, have we had any improvement in our oil reserves here, in how much we are paying for our energy on oil-based products? At one point, while we were in Iraq, I personally had seen prices over $5 a gallon. And in some parts of the country, it's a lot worse now. You keep trying to say any action has to do with the oil, we just want the free oil. Well, I'll tell you what, shut the fuck up. Y'all made that claim before, and where are we sitting at now? Only reason in any of that time since then we have seen any improvement in our prices of oil has to be because we had a president willing to open up drilling and extraction here in our homeland. Because we have some reserves too we can tap if we're fucking willing to do it. But too many people want to argue for it, against it. Another thing though is, do not get me wrong, some people out there, you disagree with this action, and you know what, we may not agree, but I do agree with your ability to disagree. I agree with your ability to go out there and protest peacefully and express your displeasure with actions. Hell, I spent a majority of my life standing willing to defend your ability to speak your mind. And that's why I proudly get on here and exercise that ability myself. I did see one gentleman, however, who got on there, who did his little video, he puts it up online, where he was trying to address our service members and trying to tell them that the American people are not behind you. Well, here's one thing I'll say to you. I understand you disagree with this administration. I got it. You're perfectly within your rights to do so. You're perfectly within your rights to go and publicly speak about your displeasure with this. But you know what? While you may have the right to speak with your mind, one thing that you, and there's a lot of other people out there that do this too, you need to fucking realize. Listen to me very carefully. You do not speak for me. And I know there's several other people out there that they don't agree with anything that you said as well. You need to stop presenting yourself as the voice of everybody, because you know what? You're just making yourself look like a fucking jackass. Now, anybody out there have a disagreement with me? Tell me where I'm wrong. Show me some facts. You know, like I say, I'll look things over. If I'm wrong, I will present it. You know, let's have a conversation. All right? A good man once said that when dialogue ends is when violence begins. Well, let's have this dialogue. How about that? Check y'all next time. Hey there, everybody. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please, if you are enjoying the content I'm providing, if you are finding this information useful, go ahead, hit the like, hit the follow. Please hit me up in the comments. Let me know that I'm speaking some truth. Hey, let me know if you have a disagreement. I just want a dialogue here. So whatever you do, just let me know you're listening, and I thank you all for your time.